History's new scripted drama, Sons of Liberty, tells the untold story of a group of rebels who brought an empire to its knees. Sons of Liberty, a 3-night event, premieres January 25th, 9/8 Central, on History.
ESPN Radio. This is the Thundering Herd Podcast.
It's the Herd on ESPN Radio. Wherever you may be, however you may be listening, thanks for making us part of your day. Presented by Progressive Insurance. All of our guests via the Subway Fresh Take hotline and simulcast on ESPNU. Oh, I love today's show. Greg Cosell in an hour breaking down Seattle, Green Bay, New England, Indianapolis on film. If you've never heard him, in 1 hour, Greg Cosell, 30 years NFL film, meat sandwich. You'll love it. I don't even know where to start today. I have so many good things. I will say this, is I like watching movies. I watch a lot of documentaries. I watched the documentary last night on why casting agents in Hollywood don't get any respect. It was amazing. I sat there for 2 hours, documentary. I think it was HBO. And I like documentaries. Short films. I work for a company that does a lot of animation and stuff. My kids love that stuff. This morning, Oscar nominations went out. I don't think I've ever been in my life more excited to watch the Oscars. Because I love Michael Keaton. If Michael Keaton wins for Best Actor, he was nominated, I'll cry on the air. I'll just tell you right now. If Brady wins the Super Bowl and Michael Keaton wins an Oscar, I'll be inconsolable. I don't know how I'll act. I mean, I just have to take weeks off. I don't know what to do. Steve Carell got nominated for Foxcatcher. Bradley Cooper for American Sniper. 3 easy guys to root for. By the way, just to show you, a lot of times people that are on camera, they get thin-skinned. I was talking to Le Batard about this the other day. And he's like, you and I take a lot of shots. And he goes, and I said, we were talking about the fact that it's never bothered me. I follow on Twitter critics who hate me. Critics are critics. It's one person's opinion. Birdman got nominated for an Oscar. Half the critics hated it. Birdman could win the Best Picture. Half the critics hated it. Can't worry about it. Just one person's opinion. I love Birdman. Stanzik watched it. Didn't like the ending. Didn't really, I loved it. You can't worry about that stuff. I mean, Bill Belichick's got critics. Jim Harbaugh's a great coach. He got canned. Can't worry about that stuff. Everybody gets the right to an opinion. I don't think I've ever been more excited about this year's Oscars. I am so jacked up for Michael Keaton. Man, good for him. Boyhood, Birdman, American Sniper. And I'll tell you a movie I think this audience would really like. It didn't get a lot of press. There's a movie out there called The Imitation Game. I strongly encourage you to go watch the trailer on YouTube for The Imitation Game. I think it got nominated for Best Picture. I haven't seen it yet. I'm going to see it this weekend. The trailer will sell you. So there you go. I got to start with this. This is going to seem kind of weird, all right? Because I'm not really a religious guy. I'm agnostic and stuff. But I always had kind of this feeling. The difference between heaven and hell was that heaven has like rules and restrictions. Not everybody gets into heaven. You have to be kind. You have to be caring. You can't be totally selfish. Like, not everybody gets into heaven. They'll be like, no, I'm sorry, your card doesn't work. No credit here. Hell's the opposite. Hell, there's no restrictions. It's a big con job. It's a sales job. Come on in. Sex, drugs, rock and roll every day. You don't have to be nice. Don't have to treat anybody well. It's kind of hard sometimes to figure out who in society is going to end up in heaven and hell, because to end up in heaven, I always thought, sometimes you're unpopular, and you tell people unpopular things like you can't do that, and you can't do that, and you can't do that, and there's rules and guidelines to being a good person. Whoa! But the devil, if he existed, devil's like, hey, free meth every day. Wake up, pound the sauce. Girls, do what you want, no rules. Gotta be careful, and that's why I've always really believed the people that go to heaven, of all their qualities, they're authentic. They don't tell you what you want to hear. They tell you what you need to hear. The devil, if he existed, He tells you what you want to hear. Hey, come to our club. It's a little warm, I'm not going to lie, but it is, woo, raise the roof every night, no rules. You're the man. You get whatever you want. Then, of course, you get in there and you're like, it's hot in here. It's bad and evil. So I always think, John Lennon once said this, if you're honest, you won't have a lot of friends, but you'll find the right ones. I'm a big believer in authenticity. I don't want to live in an echo chamber. Don't tell me what I want to hear. Tell me what I need to hear. If you don't like me, tell me. I'm okay with it. So be very careful of people who tell you and manipulate you and, oh, I'm one of you guys. Woo-hoo! You know, when Jason Garrett and the Cowboys lost at Green Bay, you know what I really liked? That Jason Garrett came out and said, we lost. That wasn't popular. He said it wasn't the officials. We weren't good enough. That guy goes to heaven. I mean, that's the kind of guy. He didn't tell you that officials call that. Jason Garrett said something really unpopular with local fans. No, it wasn't. It wasn't that. We weren't good enough, and that wasn't popular. I like people like that. I do. Rex Ryan, this morning, Stanzik said, you know, Colin, he's relatable, though. And I said, yeah, so are con men. So are salesmen. So's the devil. He's like you! Yeah! Did you hear Rex Ryan yesterday? No, I'm not calling Rex Ryan the devil, of course, but what I'm saying is Rex Ryan fools a lot of people. Fools you. He tells you what you want to hear. Did you hear his Buffalo Bill press conference yesterday? It sounded just like his Jets press conference.
I'm not going to let our fans down.
Oh, yeah, because I'm one of you. I'm making $5 million. You're making $22,000. We're together.
We're going to give everything we have.
Oh.
That represents not just ourselves, but it represents our community.
Yeah, I'm one of you. Wings, beer. Just what Buffalo wanted to hear.
We're going to be as loyal to our fans as they are to us.
Yeah, shot at Doug Marrone. Be very careful about people who say what you want to hear. Belichick doesn't say what you want to hear. Jason Garrett doesn't say what you want to hear. Popovich doesn't say what you want to hear. Oh, Popovich, bad guy. Belichick, bad guy. Is he? Are they? Harbaugh doesn't tell you what you want to hear. Is he a bad guy? Be very, very wary of the I'm one of you people. Let's go have wings together. You and I got your back. No, tell me the truth. Our offense stinks. Tom Brady owns the division, and he's going to own it until he retires. And unless we get a quarterback, we can't win the Super Bowl. But I can live with that. You're being honest and authentic with me. I can live with that. I mean, that press conference yesterday, you might as well take in that Jets press conference, said the exact same thing.
Yes, sir. That's exactly right.
Hey, but he's relatable. So's the best salesman. The best salesman, that guy in the boiler room that calls you on that phone, that cold call at night. Hey, I know what you're going through. You and I are the same. I've got a little stock to sell you. All the great salesmen, they always have a lot in common with you. Opening rant brought to you by Regis. New way to work, call 1-800-OFFICES, 1-800-OFFICES. John Lennon reference, devil reference, Michael Keaton, so fired up. I don't think, we sat here this morning when the nominations came out, and we were just, it was the silliest thing you've ever seen in your life. Because you guys are young. You know, Vince is in my age demographic, so he likes mostly what I like. John watched the Lego movie.
I'm outraged that it wasn't nominated.
Yeah, I know. Whatever. And then Stanzik is quirky, and he needs finality to every movie. Like if a movie's 2 hours long and it's brilliant, but he doesn't like the ending, Stanzik will just literally say, movie's terrible. Like Birdman to you, you're like, I don't get the ending. It was stupid. He flew off and nobody understands it. And I said to you, if you're married to somebody for 60 years and it's a great marriage, and at the end I get Alzheimer's or I start slobbering on myself, it doesn't ruin the marriage. It's not a perfect ending. But if I was married for 60 years and at the end I just fall downstairs and conk my head on the refrigerator door constantly and I can't, I just go sideways, it doesn't ruin the marriage. I'm just kind of I'm a mess at the end. Yeah, I mean, what is that music for? Is that I'm dying soon music or something? How good is this? I'll tell you right now, I'm rooting for Birdman or Boyhood. I'm rooting for Julianne Moore, Best Actress. I like Bradley Cooper and Steve Carell a lot, but I'm rooting for Michael Keaton. Best Supporting Actor, J.K. Simmons, Whiplash, who, for the record, even is good in insurance commercials. I mean, that guy's great in that insurance commercial he does. I haven't been this fired up. Like, usually Oscars, I'm like, I won't even watch it half the time. Like, give me Best Movie, Best Actor. This group of movies, I've seen half of them. And I'm going to go watch Foxcatcher, an imitation game, in the next week.
Want more of the Herd? The Thundering Herd Podcast.
At Subway, make every morning the best morning ever. Freshly made breakfast sandwiches. Subway, eat fresh. If you've not heard Best Picture, the nominations include Boyhood, saw it, great. The Imitation Game, going this weekend, supposed to be great. Birdman, saw it, loved it. American Snipers out this week, supposed to be great, I'll watch it. The Grand Budapest Hotel is, it's a comedy. I have not seen it. It's one of those Hollywood movies with everybody in Hollywood in the movie. My staff is not a fan of the director of that movie, who is what, Wes Anderson? You guys don't like Wes Anderson? You don't think he's funny? They don't like him.
I just don't get him. He thinks he's the funniest person on the planet.
Well, maybe he is. Maybe he's very funny. He just got nominated. A lot of people think he's funny. I don't know if I'll watch it, though. Best Actor was Michael Keaton in Birdman. Totally rooting for him. That young kid in The Theory of Everything. It's a Stephen Hawking story. Not interested. But I'll probably, I'm not going to watch it. Steve Carell, Foxcatcher. So happy. And you know what? Comedians are underrated. I like him so much. And then Bradley Cooper, American Snider. I saw him on the Michael Strahan show this morning. He was very pleasant. Best Supporting Actor, J.K. Simmons in Whiplash. Totally rooting for him. What? It is the Michael Strahan show. Don't even know who the other person is. Michael Strahan's on every American TV show and the cover of every magazine. All right, so I'm not really into – I don't petition. I'm not a petition guy. I'm not. I think – I don't go to protest rallies. It's not my thing. But America's based on protests. I mean, from Rosa Parks on, it's what America stands for. Now you go to the internet and you sign a fan petition, and it's not my thing. But, fans are into that. Good. So a Seattle Seahawks fan started a petition asking the NFL to revise its media policy on Marshawn Lynch, who won't talk to the press and is obstinate and says, one word over and over and over. I'm not going to read you the petition because it's Gooberville. I mean, it's just the dorkiest thing in the world. Basically, the fan is saying it's outrageous. Poor Marshawn Lynch. This is harassment. It's bullying. It's Nerdville. But I will say this. I'll side with players on this. I've never understood the media in this country. I got to tell you something. When the media complains, why in the hell would you interview Marshawn Lynch? If you're not talented enough to write a story without a Marshawn Lynch quote, quit the business. When I used to cover the Jailblazers, Bonzi Wells didn't want to talk. That's a you problem. You'll be a statistic in no time. 80% of the league's players are broke a decade later. You don't want to use me to elevate your brand? That's your problem. You know who was on that team that did? Steve Kerr. Maybe you've heard. He's kicking arse. The other guy who talked was Chris Dudley. He's a governor. In my 25 years in the media, here is an absolute no exception. The guys who want to talk get it because they're smart enough to realize I'm here to use. Use me. Elevate your brand. Elevate your name. Get ads out of it. Get passive income. Use me. Use me. I'm here to be used and manipulated. I'm a publicity machine. I'm a platform. Use me. If you're too stupid to use me, you'll be one of the 78% of NFL players broke 2 years after retirement. 78%. But let me give you a list of guys that I've covered who like to talk. Charles Barkley. He's done pretty well. Magic. Aikman. Steve Young. Jalen Rose. Shaq. Rodney Harrison. Kobe. Matt Hasselbeck. Dilfer. The guys who want to talk are get-it guys. And they use the media to elevate their charities and elevate their income and elevate their brand. If Marshawn Lynch doesn't want to talk, then he's one of the other guys. Who cares? Like, I never went in the locker room and was upset and tried to get the non-talkers to talk. I'd go to the talkers and get them to say more interesting stuff. Every team I ever covered. I covered the Tampa Bay Buccaneers football team. The two guys that talk, one of them was Trent Dilfer. Maybe you've noticed. He's making 7 figures. He's got a huge charity, Elite 11. He used the media. He's pretty smart. I can name about 7 guys in that locker room who didn't. You know who else used the media in that locker room I covered? Warren Sapp. Warren Sapp continues to make us, he continues to use the media for, okay, but there was about 9 guys in that locker room who didn't like to talk. I got news for you. I followed them, about half of them now. Call Warren Sapp and Bill for asking for money. Damian Woody was a talker. He's done pretty well. So if a guy doesn't want to talk, then don't talk to him. Like in life, if they're not politicians, they're not elected officials, they're not representing society, they're not part of a social program that our families need. They're jocks. If they don't want to talk, don't listen to them. And some, some people just don't, Now, you have to have, obviously, a handful of guidelines. So if the Patriots lose to the Colts and everybody in the Patriots locker room says, we're not talking, you do want to create certain guidelines so fans can access players and the media can. But there's always somebody willing to talk. I've never covered a locker room, even a small NBA locker room, where people don't want to talk. Dirk Nowitzki talks, Steve Nash talks, Kobe talked, Barkley talked, Shaq talked, Jalen Rose talked. All the smart guys talk. All the smart guys talk. Scott, you're in the herd on ESPN Radio. Go ahead.
Yeah, hey, Colin. I have to say that I empathize with Marshawn Lynch, and I'm a little surprised that the NFL didn't learn anything from the Ricky Williams scenario where he obviously suffered from social anxiety disorder
right
in the same way that Lynch does.
Yeah.
And we can look at where he is now and some of the problems he's had.
Yeah. Scott, I agree with you. If you know what I think, Scott? I think every team in pro sports should be able to have a list of 4 or 5 guys who they just deem they're not going to talk socially. And I don't know if they've got social anxiety, but listen, I've met people in my life, Scott, that my sister could never do what I do. She was like, oh, I get so nervous. My sister's more nervous than I am. She's not. She's like, oh, my God, I don't know how you do it. I'd be scared to death. A lot of people are scared to talk. They don't give speeches. There are people like that in society, so that means they exist in locker rooms as well. So, but I mean, I don't understand the media like, oh, make him talk. Oh, get all over yourself. If you can't write a column without a Marshawn Lynch quote, then you're a hack. I mean, seriously. When's Marshawn Lynch ever said anything and you're like, wow, that is fascinating. That was a compelling soundbite. I mean, come on. He's a hack. Russell Wilson's interesting. Richard Sherman's the next locker down. Richard Sherman is interesting if he stuttered for a living. It would be interesting. He's always interesting. Go talk to him. Oh, I got it. I have not seen this movie. Dan, you've seen the Grand Budapest Hotel. Is it any good?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Why do you like it?
I'm going to say it's once the pace picks up, it is just fast-paced, bang, bang, bang.
So what do you mean, the pace? Like the jokes are funny, like rat-a-tat? What do you mean?
Yeah, it's just one gag after another. And some of them are subtle, but it's just the pacing of the movie it just does not let up.
Okay,
it's
so
relentless.
By the way, Dan sounds very smart. How old are you, Dan?
I'm 54.
Yeah, see, now my staff's full of 18-year-olds. They don't get Dan's sophistication. Did you hear Dan talk?
Yeah, did you hear him? He said once the pace picks up, which means the beginning of the movie is very boring. I'm not waiting around for the pace to pick up.
I believe Dan. I think Dan used to be a movie
I believe
critic.
Dan, too, me.
It's nice to have a sophisticated older voice on the radio show to set you straight. Oh, I'm sorry. There wasn't a goblin that blew up in the first 4 minutes of the movie. I'm sorry it wasn't in outer space and stuff's blowing up. Yeah, if you don't have a spaceship in the first 8 minutes, Stanzik's like, I'm out of here. Where's the spaceship? Where's the goblin? Where's time travel? Is there time travel to the Budapest Hotel? It's nice to have a mature guy call the show.
You're in the herd. The Thundering Herd Podcast.
By the way, I just got an email from a longtime friend of mine, former National Sports Writer of the Year, Hubert Meisel. He's a sports writer. He's retired now. We were talking about players who I've never gone into a locker room. If you don't want to talk to me, I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to force you to be, I just think we should leave guys alone who don't want to talk. And Hubert just texted me. He goes, Colin, He goes, I covered the worst Florida Gator team in 60 years. 1979, they were 0-10-1. There was only one willing, analytical, sensible voice in that locker room. He was a great talker. His name, Chris Collinsworth. Exactly. When you're a media guy and walk into a locker room, I can go, successful, successful. I can point to the guys and go, successful, successful, be out of money, successful. You know the guy, and the guys who are successful, use me. Use me for your charities. Use me for your kids. Use me for your commerce. Use me. I'm here. If you can't figure that out, you have nothing to say anyway. All right. By the way, Oscar nominations out. Next hour, going to have a movie critic on. Hope the Birdman wins. Boyhood's fantastic. I have not seen Reese Witherspoon in Wild, but I'm happy for her. Okay, I said this yesterday. LeBron pushing David Blatt, I don't think it's going to work. I don't think it's going to work. I also see Mikhail Prokhorov is selling the Brooklyn Nets, and I never bought into that guy. So I thought I'm going to bring in Avery Johnson, former coach, and he was a coach who got canned in Jersey. So we're hearing stories of players running different plays than David Blatt calls in Cleveland, Avery. Assistant coaches calling timeouts. To me, this thing looks like it's falling apart. Do you think, in the NBA, the stars got to like the head coach? Do you think, Avery, right now, LeBron James buys into David Blatt?
It's hard to say when you're not in that locker room. You know, obviously, Cleveland haven't achieved the results that they probably thought they would achieve after 38 or 39 games in the season. But, you know, LeBron hasn't publicly said anything negative about his coach. So I would say right now, as of today, there's still a level of respect there. But I'm sure LeBron wants it to translate into more victories.
Yeah, I mean, because I worry about this, Avery. There's so much pressure on LeBron to help the Cleveland economy, to sell merchandise. Is it possible that he feels like right now he's got to play great for them to win games? And that maybe, is it possible there's too much of a burden on LeBron right now, regardless of who his coach is?
Yeah, it is possible. And I think part of his 2-week break was not just about him physically.
Really?
And I thought he needed a mental break. You know, I just thought he got to a point where, you know, he obviously signed up to return to Cleveland, but I think in some ways it just became a little bit too much.
Yes.
And I just thought he needed to get away. He needed to collect his thoughts. I think it also was about allowing Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love to try to find their rhythm, which they still haven't found yet. They're just not quite there yet.
By the way, Andrew Wiggins is really starting to play well. You think there's any doubt now? You think there's people, LeBron thinking, seller's remorse?
Yeah, wow, what an outstanding young player. I compare him to Tracy McGrady offensively, and a kid that can obviously be a little bit better than Tracy on defense.
Oh, yeah, he's a real defender.
He's a real defender, but he has that same type of body as Tracy when he came into the NBA straight out of high school, and he'll have that type of offensive repertoire, and it's amazing, and he's a freak athlete, and he's fun to watch.
Avery Johnson, at Coach Avery6 on Twitter. Listen, the Nets now are up for sale. I was never a fan of Mikhail Prokhorov. Anytime a billionaire tells me money's limitless, trees don't grow to the sky, I don't believe that. I never bought into how he built the team. You were there. Tell me the process. What happened?
Yeah, Mikhail had an opportunity to build a team like Oklahoma City or the Spurs, basically through the draft, or try to go and, trade for or sign a superstar star player. And obviously they chose door B.
Did they panic, Avery?
You know what? I think that's a legitimate argument. And I think sometime when you're a young owner, it's all about splashes and headlines and winning the game, and it's not only nationally, but when you're in New York, you got to win the local media game.
And the Knicks had signed Carmelo Anthony, so the Nets and the Nets wanted. I'm just saying, is it possible they watched the Knicks sign Melo and they freaked out and panicked?
It is possible, but again, when you're in that situation, everybody can go back and say, well, if I had to redo, would I do it differently? They're probably asking themselves that question, especially now if it goes true that they are potentially trying to sell the team.
Avery Johnson, always great talking to you, Coach.
Thanks a lot, Colin. Love your show.
ESPN Radio presented by Progressive Insurance. Last year, 3 million drivers switched to Progressive. Call or click today and find out if you could save. I got to tell you, I'm taking emails from the audience on the Budapest Hotel, and about 80-20 people didn't like it. And whatever. Listen, the guy, the director, Hollywood loves the director. It's very British humor, right? Like, my mom was British, so I watched the Monty Python stuff and Benny Hill. When I was a little kid, my mom liked Roy Orbison, the BBC, and Benny Hill. That's what I grew up on. What do you want me to say? That's what I
don't know. You just roll in those rich Hollywood elite crowds, so maybe you like it and we don't, because we're the everyman.
No, I don't like Hollywood. I don't. The Great Gatsby, I'm not into. I'm not into the upper crust life. I'm not. By the way, I don't wear skinny jeans. You know what I like for dinner? Chicken pot pie. They don't eat that in Budapest, okay? I'm not that sophisticated. Greg Cosell's up next. People are banging on the Grand Budapest Hotel. Apparently the first 10 minutes aren't fast enough for my crew because nothing blew up, and there were no goblins or saucers flying overhead shooting laser beams at the actors. My staff's embarrassing. Apparently this has subtlety. You guys wanted like a zombie doorman at the hotel. Come into the Grand Budapest. My crew. Embarrassing. All right, Greg Cosell's around the corner.
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
My buddy on Twitter, Scott McCain, he said if you've seen any Wes Anderson film, you've seen the Grand Budapest Hotel. Wry, amusing, smug, and pretentious. So, I'm most of those, but that doesn't mean I'll like the movie. Yeah, the thing is, it's incredible. I'm getting a lot of now. He makes a great point. If a film is merely amusing, is it a comedy? If a film is just wry, is that a comedy? Like Hangover is a comedy. Hangover is hysterical. It's a good point. Let's get Greg Cosell, 30 years NFL films. All right, we got 2 games left. Well, 3 if you count the Super Bowl. So here, Greg, this is what I want to start with. There's a lot of talk about Peyton Manning, and you warned us about 3 months ago on this. You said, listen, Peyton Manning's arm, it's different. He's lost it. Teams will prepare differently. Well, using your words, Greg, I really noticed it this weekend. When you look at tape of Peyton Manning, and I watched what you told me and how, like, the Colt corners, they were jumping routes. Is it time for Peyton to go on film? Does he have much left?
Well, there's no way to answer that only because he had injuries to both legs. So if he feels that gets better and that he can drive off his legs, it's like a pitcher in baseball. You can't throw without your legs. I think his legs were shot, and that made his arm, which, by the way, for the last 2 years hasn't been very good, so that's not a big surprise. It made it even worse. So he'll have to decide where his legs stand in 3, 4, 5 weeks. And because at this age, Colin, as we know, and John Elway would be the first to tell you, those injuries don't go away so fast.
No, they don't. When I look, there's so many interesting things this weekend. I was shocked that the Colts beat Denver. I was. The other games I saw on film, I think Denver's got better players, but I thought it was Luck kind of carrying his team. On film, why did the Colts beat the Broncos?
Well, let's start on offense. Their O-line played terrifically, and what they did is they challenged their O-line. They had left tackle Costanzo block DeMarcus Ware one-on-one. They clearly said, you're going to have to block him one-on-one, and he did. And Luck essentially had time. Their offense was able to be efficient. They actually had a semblance of a run game. They ran the ball far more than they had in recent weeks and more effectively, even though the numbers were not big, so they were able to stay relatively balanced by their standards, and I think it all started with their O-line.
Okay. So now they take that O-line and Luck to take on a New England team that had a very rough first half, Greg, and then decided to ditch the running game entirely in the second. How surprised were you that Bill Belichick, who loves the run, he gave up on the run?
Not surprised, because I think he plays each week, and it's funny you mention that, because the last 2 times they played the Colts, Colin, they have gained total 480 rushing yards. Those are college numbers. So the question is, how does Bill Belichick approach this game against the Colts? When they played Week 11, that was the Jonas Gray game. And if I'm not mistaken, 32 of Gray's 37 rushes had 6 O-linemen on the field. So is Belichick going to take that approach again? I think that the Colts defense is much better than it was Week 11. I think their 2 inside linebackers, Jackson and Freeman, have played extremely well versus the run in the 2 playoff games. So I think they're a different defense right now.
That's interesting. That game for New England initially, it's funny. They came out, whether they were flat or it was schemes, they weren't very good initially. And we talked about adjustments this week. Mark Helfrich, the Oregon coach, said adjustments are overrated. And I thought, boy, my football eyes tell me they're not. What did Bill Belichick do from a scheme point, first half to second half in that game? Because it was like 2 different Patriot teams.
You're talking about which game, Week 11 or this week?
No, I'm talking the Ravens-Patriots this week.
Oh.
First half to second half, the Patriots were a different team. What did he do?
Well, clearly he decided that he was going to line up and throw it, and they did it with the short, quick pass game, which negated any pass rush. He saw how the Ravens were playing in the secondary, and they were playing zone and soft. And when you play zone and soft, and you're going to have a quarterback like Brady who's going to take 3- and 5-step drops and get the ball out, you can beat that kind of defense. And that's exactly what happened. They didn't even give their pass rushers a chance because they were playing so soft. They were giving Brady those throws, and I guarantee Belichick and his coaching staff saw that, and they said, well, we're not going to run the ball. There's no need to, because Tom can drop back and he can hit these short throws.
Wow. Greg Cosell, 30 years NFL films. Let's go to the NFC. So Dallas often controlled the clock in the line of scrimmage against Green Bay, but Green Bay found a way at Lambeau. Aaron Rodgers got hot in the second half to win. When I watched the Dallas-Green Bay game, Greg, my thought was, well, now they got to go to Seattle, and Seattle's going to do the same thing. They're going to lean on Green Bay's defense. Is it possible the Packers are just a bad matchup for Seattle?
Well, just before I say that, there's one thing that you're the second person this week that's talked to me and mentioned about the Cowboys controlling it. The Cowboys only ran 51 plays in that game, which is a very small number by NFL standards. They really didn't control the game at all. And I personally think if they were able to run 65 or 70 plays, that game would have had a different outcome. And my sense is their running game could have been a much bigger factor, even though Murray did end up with 120-plus yards. But they only ran 20 plays in the entire second half. So they didn't really control the game at all. As far as Seattle, the biggest issue you face with Seattle, when you're talking about Seattle's offense, is there's so much backfield action, and there's so much that Wilson can do with his legs. You get so caught up in the backfield that that's how they often get their big pass plays. Now, I thought this past week, I thought Russell Wilson threw the ball as well as I've ever seen him throw the ball. Yeah. And he made third-down throws that were big time. That throw to Curse for a 63-yard touchdown was a big-time throw versus man-free coverage. So he threw it great this past week.
I find, and I said this to Tim Tebow the other day on the set, I'm fascinated by Russell Wilson because he plays the ball. It's almost, they're calling it now post-snap. Like everybody does pre-snap stuff. He does post-snap. Let's revisit this for my audience, Greg, because many haven't heard you. You said when you talked about Russell Wilson, he's not like other guys. You said it was at one point like planned mayhem or orchestrated ad-libbing.
I said structured improvisation.
Yeah, like what? Explain that again, what that means, because I find it fascinating.
Yeah, I think Russell Wilson moves with a clear sense of why he's moving before he moves. Many quarterbacks, we had this discussion, last year leading up to the draft about Johnny Manziel, for instance, and I always thought he moved and then tried to figure it out, whereas I think Russell Wilson moves knowing exactly why he's moving with a plan in mind. It's almost as if his movement is structured. It's not random, because normally movement, when you break the discipline and design of a play, then it becomes random. I think he's an outlier in the sense that he's so good with his movement that it's almost structured.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the one play you saw from the past week. My ESPNU audience loves this. The play that you rewound and rewound and rewound, Greg.
Well, I love this particular play. This was the touchdown pass from Andrew Luck to Hakeem Nicks. And the reason I love this play is it's in the red zone, which, as we all know, Colin, is the most important part of the game offensively, perhaps other than third down. And here was an example where red zone defense is always different than in the middle of the field. And what the Broncos did here is you see the Colts, they're in an empty set, no backs with Luck. So what they did, the Broncos, is they double-teamed the two most inside receivers, who were Reggie Wayne and Dwayne Allen. Not because they were Allen and Wayne, but because this is what teams often do in the red zone, is they double inside and they play man-to-man outside. So what happened is Luck dropped back, and he wanted to hit Dwayne Allen on the crosser. But T.J. Ward played him hard to the inside because he had double-team help with a safety over the top, that route was taken away. So what Luck did is he then looked to Hakeem Nicks on the sort of short post, and that was taken away by one of the players who was part of a double-team on Reggie Wayne, the corner, Chris Harris. So now Luck had to move a little. He felt the pressure from the outside to his front side, and he had to move. And here's what I loved about this play, Colin, is he throws this ball with the back of Bradley Roby turned to him, because Luck knew Roby could not make a play on the ball, and he threw Nicks open. He threw it to where Nicks had to go get it within the context of the coverage. So it was a play in which you could argue the defense won early and Luck and the offense won late.
Yeah, I'm watching it here. Yeah, that's the difference, college pro. You're throwing a guy open right there. Exactly as you said. You're throwing that guy open.
Yeah, I mean, Luck saw the back of Bradley Roby, and in the NFL, if you see the back of a defender, he's not making a play on the ball. You got to make that throw in the NFL, even if the guy's right next to your receiver, because he can't see the ball.
My head exploded. You just blew my mind right there. My head just exploded. That was incredible. Greg Cosell on Twitter. Okay, I'm going to see you at the Super Bowl, and ESPN's going to buy you lunch. You ready for it?
Yeah, I'll plan to eat a lot that day.
Good talking to you, Greg.
All right, Colin, thank you.
You bet. You're listening to The Herd on ESPN Radio, available in the sports section on the free TuneIn Radio app. If you don't see that on ESPNU, where he talks about the play and we edited it about 15 times. It's such a treat for me. He'll tell you what he sees on film, what coaches watch. It's great. All right, Oscar nominations. I'm bringing on Ben Lyons here in 20 minutes to talk about this stuff. Ben Lyons is a guy, his dad is a legendary film critic, and Ben does this, and he does some sports radio. So I'll ask him whenever I see him in L.A., I'm like, okay, what would I like? And he's like, you got to see Boyhood. You got to see The Imitation Game. You got to see Birdman. By the way, we just had a young man come into the studio who works at ESPN. He said The Imitation Game was one of the 5 best movies he's ever seen in his life. The Imitation Game was one of the 5 best movies. It's based on a true story. Nazi Germany, true story. Trying to encode, it decodes script, right? So it's a true story. The Imitation Game. But the young man came in here. He was a bearded young man. And he came in here and he said, Colin, top 5 movie all time. Now, he was like 27. So, he's probably seen Lego movies and blow-up stuff. But still. Well, the first thing I said is, why are you in my studio and what's your name? Security! Tell you, the last couple of nights, wife's out of town. I'm sleeping 14 hours a night. I've got so much energy. It's just, just fantastic. Chicken pot pie, watching documentaries. No, I'm not. And I don't. I eat chicken pot pie and go to bed at 7 at night. And I get home and I watch documentaries. It's a great life. Take my depression pills. It's quite a life I've carved out for myself. Oh, shut up. Don't even go there. You know what's funny is I don't drink when I'm alone. I really don't. What's the point? What's the point of drinking when you're alone? There's no value there. It's a social lubricant. I'm going to talk to myself. Yeah.
You know you get paid to talk to yourself, right?
That's a good point. I did pour a glass of vodka. I stared at it, but I didn't drink it. Because if nobody's there to see me drink, I'm not impressing anybody with my ability to drink an entire bottle of vodka in 20 minutes.
Why don't you stop talking for a while?
Want more of the herd? The Thundering Herd Podcast.
I've known Ben Lyons for some time, and his dad's a legendary movie critic and one of the smartest guys I've ever met in my life, an irrational Red Sox fan, and Ben's a wackadoo Knicks fan, so I'll get to that in a second. He's the world's craziest Knicks fan. He still thinks they're going to make the playoffs. I'm not joking. Ben's off his rocker. But he has predicted, it's an amazing thing, because I've known Ben for a couple years. He will tell me 9 months out. He'll like, here's the 4 best movies of the year, and he nails them. I mean, by February, it'll be like, boom, 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 boom. And he told me, he said, Boyhood, Imitation Game, Birdman, Theory of Everything, American Sniper, months ago. And then I saw him again at a basketball game, and he's like, have you seen this, this, this? All right, let's start with this. I hear you have a complaint, though, as the Oscar nominations were released today. There is something seriously, though, Ben, that you were not happy with.
People like to talk about snubs with the Academy Awards. The biggest snub this year is diversity, Colin. There are no black actors nominated. There's one Mexican filmmaker, no women filmmakers. It is a bunch of white guys from America and white guys from England. And I don't blame the Academy entirely for this. Why? David Oyelowo was a good choice for Martin Luther King, would have turned 86 today. There weren't a lot of opportunities for the Academy to nominate performers of color this year, and I blame the Hollywood studios. How about a role for a black actor that's a really good dad in a drama? Not a slave, not an entertainer, not a housekeeper. Those are the films that get nominated traditionally for black actors. So I want to see more diversity at the Academy Awards. That said, there are lots of worthy nominees this year, including some of those films that you and I have talked about over the last 8 months or so, like Birdman and American Sniper.
You know, Birdman's interesting, very quirky, and I love Michael Keaton, and I have a feeling that Hollywood likes Michael Keaton. But is Birdman, is it formidable enough to win Best Picture?
I don't think it is. I think Boyhood is the favorite for Best Picture. Birdman leads the way with 9 nominations, a bunch of nominations for Ed Norton and Emma Stone and the cast. Boyhood is interesting because it's going to win Best Picture and doesn't have a lead actor nomination. Eller Coltrane, the young boy in that film, not nominated. Patricia Arquette and fellow Knicks fan Ethan Hawke nominated this morning. But Michael Keaton is the only actor in that category, Colin, who didn't play a real-life guy. Eddie Redmayne for Stephen Hawking, Bradley Cooper, of course, Benedict Cumberbatch, Steve Carell, all play real-life guys, and the Academy tends to like that with the acting performances.
It's interesting. We go to Best Actor, Michael Keaton, Steve Carell, Bradley Cooper. I think those names jump out to most American moviegoers, most. Steve Carell's a comedian, and then he goes and does a serious role in Foxcatcher. I was surprised he was nominated because comedy gets no respect historically. Were you surprised he was nominated?
I was surprised from the moment he came on screen. This film premiered at the Cannes Film Festival in May, and 5 minutes into it, you say, oh, wow, he's doing something he's never done before. And you look traditionally at actors like Robin Williams, for example, who won Academy Awards in more serious work, but of course was known primarily for his comedic work. When you reinvent yourself and do something a little different and put yourself out there, it can lead to very special things. So I'm happy that Steve Carell was nominated. But you and I are big Nightcrawler guys. As somebody who's worked in local news, I know you were probably disappointed this morning when Jake Gyllenhaal and the film was overlooked, although Tony Gilroy got a nomination in the screenplay category.
For the screenplay, yeah. Now, my wife didn't like it, but I did because I worked in local news, so I was fascinated by it. Gyllenhaal lost some weight and was daunting on screen. Is he the one guy that you thought was snubbed?
David Oyelowo as well for Martin Luther King, as I mentioned, and Jake Gyllenhaal. Look, they only got 5 performances to honor, and there's some great work out there. The best actor at Cannes, Timothy Spall for Mr. Turner, wasn't nominated. Jessica Chastain, who I think has made 7 movies since I got on the phone with you, she wasn't nominated today.
Joaquin Phoenix for Inherent Vice, who got a Golden Globe nomination. You know, there's always going to be people on the outside looking in.
Yeah. Oh, okay, if I said to you, the nominees for Best Picture are Boyhood, The Imitation Game, Birdman, Theory of Everything, Grand Budapest Hotel, Whiplash, Selma, American Sniper. Which one did you really like? If I said you get to pick one to go watch tonight, what would it be?
Whiplash is the best opening night movie in the history of Sundance. 2 Sundance films this year, Boyhood and Whiplash, nominated. Whiplash reminds me of my high school basketball coach, Ray Vokel, who used to scream at me when I would turn the ball over or jack a 3 from 25 feet. Little did you know that my favorite player is Carmelo Anthony, so that's where I got it from. But Whiplash, the relationship between a musical prodigy who has the ability to be one of the greats of all time, and J.K. Simmons is his instructor, and he pushes Miles Teller to the break, and it's just intense. It's the most intense movie about jazz ever made, if you can even believe that's a real thing. But Whiplash is the one that gains the most, I think, by getting a Best Picture nomination for people to go out and see it.
By the way, my staff, wildly immature, they don't think Grand Budapest. They thought it was slow, and it was kind of pretentious. They don't like the director, Wes Anderson. Did you like the Grand Budapest Hotel?
I did. I was very surprised he won at the Golden Globes on Sunday for musical and comedy. The Globes, by the way, just an excuse for a celebrity-filled party, not a good indicator of what's going to happen at the Oscars. Pay attention to the Critics' Choice tonight and to the Screen Actors Guild over the weekend. But, you know, some people are either huge Wes Anderson fans, and they love Moonrise Kingdom, and they love going in his brain for 2 hours once every 2 years, and other people, he just don't get him. I was surprised he was given a Best Director nomination. He's usually relegated to the screenplay categories. Clint Eastwood, for American Sniper at 84 years old, overlooked. You don't see Christopher Nolan, who's never gotten a Best Director nomination. He didn't get anything for Interstellar this year. So a little surprised that Wes Anderson got a Best Director nom, but you know, he's one of those unique filmmakers. When you're watching his movies, you know it's his vision for how a story is to be told.
Yeah, like David Lynch used to be. You know, that's the kind of, you know, it's a David Lynch film if you're watching the David Lynch film. You know, can I give a tip of the hat to somebody who I've liked for a long time and admired?
Sure.
And I know she's not, you know, Patricia Arquette in Boyhood.
Incredible.
And I call it, forget actress, she's an actor. The great actors to me, I think I literally don't know their acting. She is so good in Boyhood. Maybe I'm just wildly overstating it. I thought she was so good in Boyhood. She was like a citizen in a movie. She wasn't an actor.
My buddy Shane says that it's not only should Patricia Arquette win Best Supporting Actress, they should put all the actors up on stage, actor, supporting actor, Best Actress, and she should just have the performance of the year. She should win for all of that.
Yeah.
I mean, she's the heart of that movie. So much is made about the young boy's transformation over those 12 years that it took to make Boyhood. But Patricia Arquette, as you said, a professional actor, no pretense about her, and she's fearless in this movie, and she'll win for supporting actress. That's a lot.
I mean, again, I don't know this business, but I'll tell you, when people are on screen and you literally think like she's a mom, she's not an actress, she's a mom. She is so great in this. Ben Lyons, ESPN LA, the Oscar nominations released today. By the way, your Knicks are atrocious. How can you be a fan of that team?
Well, did you hear the breaking news? Phil Jackson made a trade. We get Benedict Cumberbatch and Eddie Redmayne, and the Knicks have to stay in London. So that's the trade that Phil pulled off, which I'm very happy for. But, oh, my God. I mean, it's a junior varsity team in Mello. It's ridiculous. I hope their passports aren't valid when they go through customs and they have to get deported back to England. Just stay in England for the rest of the year. Unbelievable.
Ben Lyons, good talking to you, buddy.
You saw it firsthand. You saw that horror movie on New Year's Eve when we saw the Knicks and Clippers. All right. We'll talk to you again before the Oscars. Colin, thanks for having me.
You bet. Ben Lyons, really good guy. Yeah, his dad's like a movie savant. I mean, you can tell. Didn't fall far from the tree. I mean, he's dropping names. I couldn't read a phone book that fast. I mean, he has got this encyclopedic knowledge of movies. It's incredible. I can't believe that not that I can't believe it, but maybe I should be a casting director. Did you notice how I picked up on the subtle, complex, nuanced Patricia Arquette acting? Did you notice that? I did. Maybe I should be a movie critic person.
Great story. Compelling and rich.
Colin Cowherd.
The Thundering Herd Podcast.
So it's weird in this business. Sometimes you bring something up and it becomes a huge topic on the show, and it was meant as a throwaway. And last week, and maybe that happens to me 3 times, 5 times a year. So last week I got into this thing where I don't believe in checking bags. I've never checked bags my entire life. I find it completely tedious, and it's just I don't understand people who check bags. In fact, I said I was helping America. I was trying to help America. So everybody just clobbered me. But it was funny because 3 people in Fort Worth, including Gino Torretta in an elevator, said, hey, never check a bag. And he high-fived me. I'm like, Gino Torretta? He's like, dude, I listened to that. I was like, guy's a genius. Bang, I got to go. So I was like, this caught on in America. So Van Pelt and Russillo, just took me to the woodshed, and they just smoked me, and they're like, this guy is a weirdo. In fact, do we have the tape? Find the tape when they do we have it by chance? Hold on, I got to play. Okay, so Van Pelt, Scotty, apparently Russillo doesn't want any part of this.
He's eating.
Yeah, whatever. So you have the courage to come in and acknowledge something happened recently.
Yes, I want to make this clear. If this was teased as an apology, this is not an ad hoc apology.
Okay.
It is just this.
Okay, hold on. We're going to play the funny tape, though.
All right.
Here's the setup. Here's Van Pelt and Russillo clobbering me last week.
We're here for a week. Right. What are you supposed to do? So you would rather have to, in the middle of a trip, go somewhere to do laundry or pay to have the hotel do it than just wait, 15 minutes tops for your bag?
He's a brilliant and fascinating man. But this is indefensible.
You're here for a week. You need drawers. You need some clothes. You need some workout gear. You need some warmsies. Watch him closely. Like how many outfit changes does the guy have? I'm not saying you need to have multiple shirts per show, but for a week,
you just mix it up.
How does that guy function in the world?
So do you really imagine being here Saturday, going, "What are you doing today? You got a day off?" I do, but I got to hit the old laundromat and do some because I can't wait for a bag.
Maybe he just washes his underwear in the sink.
So what happened?
Okay. One thing I'd like to say. I have taken personal inventory, and the line that you had last week about a separate shoe bag, that did happen. I have taken personal inventory. I've gotten better. I've streamlined the packing process. I no longer pack my own shoe bag. Let's just get that clear.
Okay.
However, I had to stay to do SportsCenter Monday night. Ryan and I stayed to do the show Tuesday in Fort Worth. It was a bleak day, not a lot of people there. Get back on Tuesday night late to Bradley, around the exact same time that another flight from Miami arrived. So here's what we've got. We've got Bradley Airport, late night. I'm guessing the whole crew's not out there doing the bag, bringing the bags forward. I'd guess there were 300 people standing around the baggage claim carousel. It didn't move because I'm guessing there was one dude out there with a tricycle and a rope bringing the bags in, and we sat and we stood and we looked and we looked and we looked, and it was a half hour and no bags had come out.
30 minutes, no bags.
No bags. And I looked at Russillo and I said, God, I hope Cowherd doesn't have cameras down here. And then Ryan, the king of the non sequitur, the great funny lines, he goes, Cowherd's so far ahead of us. He's like, he's already home. And then later he said, it's already Thursday for Cowherd. He's so far ahead of us because he didn't check a bag, and we waited. Now, I will say that when the bags came out, very quickly, we did have our bags. When I go to the Super Bowl, I will check a bag. I just thought it was given the rant that you had last week, you won 30 minutes that we didn't have. You won that.
Well, it takes a real man to have courage. It's good to know that one guy on your show has the courage.
He's eating, and I did not. I can't sign him up for this. I will say that on this one, not checking a bag, you one more time. I just felt better about my outfit choice.
Okay.
We'll see you in Arizona.
All right, buddy.
Cheers.
Scott Van Pelt. You know, it is funny. You sit there and you talk and you talk and you talk for a living, and you bring up some kind of non-starter, and it takes over the show. I can't tell you how many people came up to me on Gino Torretta in elevators. Like, dude, never do a bag. Pow. Escalator going down. 2 guys are like, no bags ever. They're doing L on the forehead. Guys who check bags, losers. I think Obama tweeted, I never check a bag. It was incredible. So Todd McShay, is this McShay or Mel Kiper? Who came out with this? Okay, you're right. Okay. So this is Mel Kiper's. Can we do first mock draft? Can you give me a little something, huh? Mocking music. So these are the top 5 picks according to Kiper. They're pretty accurate generally. Number 5 is Randy Gregory. He's kind of a defensive end for Nebraska. Number 4 is Amari Cooper, the wide receiver, Alabama. He's pretty good. Number 3 is Leonard Williams, Florida kid, but he played at USC. He'll go to Jacksonville. Number 2 is Marcus Mariota, quarterback Oregon. He's going to go to Tennessee, according to Mel. And Jameis Winston, Florida State, Tampa Bay, which I think is an obvious pick. Listen, the way Tampa works is Tampa's not a big market. They have an NFL and a baseball team, but they struggle to sell tickets. Not a lot of Fortune 500s. They got to sell tickets. So they sell hope. They sell local product, hope, Gator, no. They're doing anything they can. They're going to get Jameis Winston. They're going to pick up Jameis Winston. Tennessee's going to go Marcus Mariota. Oh, I heard this. I'm not going to call out the host who did this, but I heard a certain host yesterday. It's incredible. It's just an opinion, so everybody gets their opinion. But he was comparing. This host likes Johnny Manziel, and I think he's a grease fire. He's small. He doesn't have the arm. He's not coachable. He's not mature. I think he's a disaster. This host loves him, and he said, I like Manziel. He compares to Marcus Mariota. Not in the least. First of all, Mariota's 6'4.5". Manziel's 5'11". Secondarily, one of them is incredibly coachable. One is completely uncoachable. The other one scores very well on tests, Mariota. The other one does not. The other one really can throw from the pocket and ad-libs on zone reads implemented by his coach, but likes to sit and throw. Mariota can sit and throw. They run a zone read, which he often doesn't run. He often runs in peril, but he doesn't choose to run as much as people think. Johnny Manziel is tiny, uncoachable, immature, entitled, average arm. And the other mistake people make about Mariota has the ability to stand tall in a pocket and throw darts. Johnny Manziel is constantly throwing off platform. What does that mean? That he's on one leg. He's leaning. Nothing makes an average arm weaker than when you're not throwing standing tall in a pocket. Okay, Mariota can stand 6'4.5", 225. He'll stand and throw. And when he does, it's a real arm. Mariota's got a real arm when he wants to. A real arm. Johnny Manziel only gets the ball moving if he stands solidly in the pocket. The problem is he never does. Manziel's not working in this league. He'll win some games, but it's not going to work. He's not a franchise quarterback. Mariota can be, at least. At least he could be. Will he be? Who knows? The Herd.
He's a brilliant and fascinating man.
Check out The Herd with Colin Cowherd weekdays from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPNRadio.com, and on ESPNU. The Thundering Herd Podcast.